Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pichael with League of Items, and we're doing another NFL team preview for fantasy football, DraftKings, best ball, all that good stuff. So we're going through the rotating schedule, standings from last year, public perceptions, just a bunch of random stuff like that. Um, so first up, last year the Ravens were 14-2. Obviously, they outplayed most people's uh, expectations, which I was actually really high on the Ravens going into the year. There's no video evidence of that, but I did have a lot of Lamar Jackson all over the place and used them a lot in like the pick'em pools and stuff like that. So 14-2, they're gonna have to play against the Steelers, Browns, and Bengals, and then they will also have to play against the AFC South and the NFC East. So the NFC East is a good thing for the Ravens for fantasy. The AFC South is the Texans, Titans, Colts, and Jaguars. So I don't think I necessarily want to have games against the Colts or the Titans, but I could I could see it either way. I think it should be fine. It's not going to make me downgrade them at least. Let's take a look at the players that have gone uh, to the Ravens and away from the Ravens. So Bethel, I feel like I know that name. He's probably a pretty good player. Seth Roberts was on Oakland, then he went to the Ravens. Never really turned into anything. That's not a big loss. Hayden Hurst going to Atlanta. Um, I don't think it's a big deal. Like I don't have huge expectations for Hayden Hurst because they have so many good tight ends on the Ravens still. And then let's see who they got. Um, and this is pretty interesting because the Ravens view themselves as Super Bowl contenders. So we should see some upgrades. So they got Calais Campbell, who's a very good defensive end. I thought he was more of a defensive tackle. He's huge. He's a huge human, so that's good. Kenjon Barner, don't really expect him to play. He probably won't make the team, I think. D'Anthony Thomas is an interesting player. Uh, he's more of like a uh, kick return, punt return kind of guy, and like a depth player. Justin Ellis, I'm not sure. Marcus Peters, very good cornerback, complete psychopath. I absolutely love Marcus Peters. And then obviously today they just got rid of Earl Thomas because of like an altercation he had with teammates. So that's bad for their defense, but that's good for fantasy probably. It'll because I love Earl Thomas. I think he's a very very good player. So let's go to the players on their team. So Lamar Jackson, obviously, he is one of the best fantasy quarterbacks, and has the potential to probably be the best fantasy quarterback of all time. Like if he can pull off another running performance like he did last year, I feel like the chances of him not being the number one overall QB for fantasy is zero. The chance of him being number one is like 90%. I should say it that way. If he goes down, they have RG3. I don't love RG3 for fantasy purposes. It does limit the upside of everybody on the team, I think. If Lamar went down, I feel like it would help the running backs the most. So let's talk about the running backs. Mark Ingram is interesting. Um, he's a very good player. If they win the Super Bowl, I expect Mark Ingram to be a huge part of that. Um, like they're in win now mode. So I know a lot of people like J.K. Dobbins as a rookie, but unless he can come in and prove that he is much better than Mark Ingram, I feel like all of the stupid coach reasons um, for limiting the playtime of the rookie are going to come into play. Like Mark Ingram is probably a better pass protector. He's probably better in goal line situations. He probably has better hands and will fumble less than J.K. Dobbins. I don't know if J.K. Dobbins really had issues with that in college, but it just seems like another reason that could be used, like the security blanket of Mark Ingram being in there, and like they played so well with Mark Ingram. Why would you completely take that apart to try out a rookie? When they're winning games, I'm sure that J.K. Dobbins is going to get a lot of touches, but I'm not going to be drafting much J.K. Dobbins in best ball unless I get him at a huge discount. I have no interest in Gus Edwards or Justice Hill at all. Maybe in season long if there are some injuries, but I'm not going to draft them in best ball most likely. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. He's a boomer bust. He makes a lot of sense for best ball, but because of everybody's love for Lamar Jackson, it has inflated his draft stock considerably. Um, yeah, so Marquise Brown is very interesting. I feel like they're missing somebody. Chuck Jacobs, Chris Moore, James Proche, Jaleel, D'Anthony Thomas. All right. So Marquise Brown, I think, is interesting. Miles Boykin, he was drafted last year as well, right? Yeah, Miles Boykin's still only 23 years old. So Miles Boykin wasn't anything special last year. Let's see. Last year he had 44 fantasy points. Is that right? That's not great. Um, so Miles Boykin, you'd really have to be betting on his upside. I feel like he gets through in most drafts, so you don't really need to spend much draft capital on him. Um, Willie Snead's kind of the same thing. You do These are players that you have to consider. A deep sleeper that I actually would like is Devin Duvernay. Devin Duvernay is from Texas, and he was like he was a he was a quarterback, but they had so many injuries to like wide receivers and running backs that he became the running back, and he can do everything. Like he's the kind of player that once NFL games start, you're going to hear about like, oh, the coaches love him. He's such a good locker room guy. Uh, like he's exceeding expectations. Like I just googled him again and it said Ravens rookie receivers Duvernay, Proche shining at camp, and I wouldn't expect anything less. I think that um, he is somebody at the end of a best ball draft. Like I will want him. Um, it could be the kind of thing where he's a better real life player than a fantasy player, but he is somebody who like I want on my team, real life team, not necessarily fantasy team. Like if the Giants got Devin Duvernay, I'd be ecstatic. I'm a Giants fan. I don't know if that's obvious or not. Um, but yeah, that's basically it for that. Mark Andrews is a very good receiving tight end. He had a ton of fantasy points last year, but he's being drafted at a premium. So like you have to spend a lot of draft capital in order to get him onto your team, which will probably mean I have um, very little Mark Andrews. But if he falls in a draft, I would be interested. And then Nick Boyle has gotten, um, he has done okay in fantasy at different points. If Mark Andrews gets hurt, um, but that's basically it for the Ravens. Like Justin Tucker, obviously, I don't. It doesn't really matter for DraftKings or for Best Ball, but Justin Tucker is like always someone you can try to take at the end of a draft and feel good about it. So that's all I've got for you on the Ravens. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. But that's all I've got for you. So I'll talk to you later.